Thank you, Father. The House will come to order. Please join Representative Ricks in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gregorio, please call the roll.
Representative Zamabile. Bacon. Representative Bacon. Baisley. Benavides. Burnett. Byrd. Bockenfeld. Basenecker. Bradfield. Caraveo. Carver. Catlin. Cutter. Doherty. Representative Duran. Escar. Exum. Froelich. Geithner. Gonzalez Gutierrez. Gray. Hanks. Herod. Holtorf. Hooten. Jackson.
Here.
Judah. Kennedy. Kipp. Larson. Montine. Luck. Lynch. McCluskey. McCormick. McKean. McLaughlin.
Present.
Michelson Janae. Mullica. Neville. Ortiz. Pelton. Pico. Ransom. Rich. Ricks. Roberts. Representative Roberts. Representative Roberts is excused. Sandridge. Sirota. Snyder. Soper. Sullivan. Tipper. Titone. Valdez A. Valdez D. Van Bever. Van Winkle. Weissman. Will. Williams. Woodrow. Woog. Young. And Mr. Speaker.
All right, members. All 65 members are present today.
Whoa.
We have a quorum. Representative Ricks.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Journal of Monday, May 17, 2021 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. It's not bad. All those opposed, no. That was the best of the week. However, the ayes still have it. The motion is approved. Announcements and introductions. Representative Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is not a Jewish, actually it is still a Jewish holiday. Okay. Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services, we will be meeting at 1:30 today. The order is actually a little bit different than in the calendar. So just to be aware, we will hear Senate Bill 118, then 181, and then 1317. Be there or be square.
Representative Cutter and Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are here to tell you about the clothing drive that we're going to have on Friday. So we're partnering with ARC Thrift Stores and Dress for Success to help Coloradans with clothes when they're in the job search process.
Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bring your gently used but no longer wanted and desired clothing, and we will make sure that it gets used and gets to places that will help people get new jobs and look better. Thank you. This
Thank
Friday.
you. Be there.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've received permission from the Majority Leader to be excused tomorrow, Wednesday, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon.
So approved. Representative Weissman.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Speaker and members. This is an announcement about today's Judiciary Committee calendar, which is conveniently also on the screen behind us. We're in the Old State Library today, so there's a bit more room for committee members as well as witnesses who will be coming to speak with us. We have 4 bills, as you can see: SB 193, House Bill 1313, SB 138, House Bill 1309. We will start at 1:30. Thank you.
Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have received permission to be excused Wednesday, May the 19th.
So approved. Representative Lantine, just to keep it going back and forth. Representative Lantine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Health and Insurance Committee meets upon adjournment this morning. Hopefully it'll be this morning. And we are in room 12. We are hearing Senate Bill 126, the only bill on the calendar.
Representative Beasley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just received the permission to be absent, excused on the Friday, the 28th.
So approved. Representative Exum.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. House Transportation and Local Government, upon adjournment, LSBA, Be there.
Representative A. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of House Energy and Environment, this is an important announcement. We will not be meeting today. Energy and Environment will not be meeting today.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've received approval from the Majority and Minority Leader to be absent Thursday, May 20th.
So approved. Representative, Madam Majority Leader. Or Representative Herod. Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Appropriations, our jokes are still rolling in. They could get funnier, though. So if you guys know some members of your caucus that need a little bit of help having funny jokes, I suggest you help them funny ones because they're Representative Tatone, we might need you to mentor some of our members when it comes to jokes. But we do have a winner from this morning appropriations joke, and the winner is Representative Kennedy. Come on down. And I want to give an honorable mention to Representative Will, who I heard has been giving away jokes and being a great mentor. So we see you, we got you. All right, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Thank you, Representative Herod. I am not sure I want to tell this one right here, but I guess I will. This was from one of the cheat sheet card sample jokes that were provided by the Vice Chair. Did you hear about the kidnapping at the elementary school? It's okay, he woke up.
Kidnapping. All right, and here is your prize.
Representative Herod.
Jelly beans.
Oh, thank you.
Who wants to go next? Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. We have a tribute.
Members, we have a tribute.
State of Colorado. The Senate and House of Representatives convened in the first regular session of the 73rd General Assembly hereby extends sincere condolences and expressions of sympathy to his friends and family upon the passing of Lyle C. Kyle. Lyle Kyle was born and raised in Missouri, where he met the love of his life, Rudine Roberts, while in the 3rd grade at Jordan School in Platte County, Missouri. The Kyles found their way to Colorado in 1958 as Mr. Kyle became the 3rd and longest-serving director of Colorado Legislative Council. He retired in December 1985 after almost 28 years. Mr. Kyle left a lasting legacy and emphasized the nonpartisan role of the Legislative Council staff. He is remembered for the guidance he provided to both sides of the aisle to solve problems and his passion for tax policy. One former governor and state legislator said, Mr. Kyle was like having an encyclopedia of state issues walking around on 2 legs. He left his footprint on the legislative process through the introduction of committee staffing by Legislative Council staff, the use of italics, caps, and strikeouts to reflect bill amendments, installation of the electronic roll call in the House of Representatives, introduction of the taping system as the official record, and transferring the Office of Legislative Legal Services and the State Auditor's Office to the legislative branch. He became the director of the Colorado Public Expenditure Council before he retired to Gillette, Wyoming. Mr. Kyle was active in his church and loved to golf and camp. Above all else, he was especially proud of his family, 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 26 great-grandchildren. The state of Colorado has lost a true trailblazer with the passing of Lyle Kyle. The members of the House of Representatives and the Senate expressed their heartfelt condolences to his friends and family on their loss. On request of Senate President Leroy M. Garcia, Majority Leader Stephen Fenberg, Minority Leader Chris Holbert, and Speaker of the House Alec Garnett, Majority Leader Danae Escar, and Minority Leader Hugh McKean, given this 18th day of May, 2021, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem, and thank you, members. You can be seated. I never had the privilege of meeting Mr. Kyle, but we talk a lot about the institution down here and leaving the institution slightly better than you found it. And most of us just have a short amount of time here. But Mr. Kyle left a lasting footprint on this institution and really served in a way that we all hope to serve, one that makes this place better for the next group of folks who come in. And when you can tell from the stories and the people who are here celebrating this tribute and celebrating his service that he really was what we all strive to be, and really was an exemplary person from the nonpartisan staff side who set an example for other directors in every staff director role to really live up to. So it's an honor for me to have my name on this tribute and to honor his service today, and thanks so much for your attention.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. You know, in the tribute, we call him a trailblazer, and he truly was. But at the epitome of who he was is a public servant. As a nonpartisan staff who really forged the way to make sure that this institution functions, and the work that he did in his director roles to really make sure that the work was getting done for the people of Colorado, I think is a shining example. And I would just like to personally thank his family for sharing him with us for so many years with the state of Colorado. Colorado is a better place because of the work he put in. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I could just say ditto, but I think actually when you think of what our Ledge Council staff does now and our nonpartisan staff does now, what they do is follow in that wake. And they follow in that wake because their job is actually to help us do our job. And when I first got started talking to Marilyn Edens about the deep history of this place, Lyle Kyle's name came up a lot. And it came up a lot because he was someone who looked for the ways to actually help us do our job in a way that helps us serve. And that's a pretty remarkable thing. And I think that we're all proud of being here because we get to serve our people. But we have people who are cheering us on in the background and doing everything they can to help us do that. And so, first of all, thank you. Thank you to our Ledge Council folks. Thank you to Lyle's family. But thank you to everyone who has walked down that path to help us serve the people of this great state. I'm so proud to be a part of this because it's the institutionalist in me. Why would we not want to champion that? And then this is just an amazing way to say thank you for all that you invested in us.
Thank you, members.
Natalie Moles is here. Natalie, thank you so much for your service. All right, the next order of business on the calendar is third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1068.
House Bill 1068 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Titone, also Senator Moreno, concerning health insurance coverage for annual mental health wellness examination performed by a qualified mental health care provider and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1068 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1068 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 54 aye votes, 11 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1068 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Jackson, McLaughlin, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the Senate Bill 119.
Senate Bill 119 by Senators Bridges and Lundin, also Representatives Escar and Geithner, concerning increasing access in high school to high-quality credentials within the Career Development Success Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 119 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 119 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. 58 aye votes, 7 no votes, and 0 excuse. Senate Bill 119 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative McLaughlin, Representative Jackson, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1296.
House Bill 1296 by Representatives Byrd and Baisley, also Senators Pedersen and Heisey, concerning the codification of executive orders pertaining to limited gaming and in connection therewith allowing licensed applicants to submit fingerprints after the initial submission of an application, eliminating the statutory limit on the number of players permitted in the game of blackjack, and allowing a casino operator to divide its lawful gaming space into more than 2 non-contiguous spaces.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1296 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1296 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1296 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1171.
House Bill 1171 by Representatives Bradfield and Titone, also Senators Buckner and Heisey, concerning the creation of the Kidney Disease Prevention and Education Task Force and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1171 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1171 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 13 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1171 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Jackson, McLaughlin, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1250 until tomorrow, Wednesday, May 19th.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1250 will be laid over one day till Wednesday, May 19th. That brings us to the next order of business, which is general order, second reading of bills. Representative Doherty. You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Doherty will take the chair.
I know. I should probably take this off so I'm audible.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee reports are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. The coat roll is relaxed. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1300.
House Bill 1300 by Representatives Weissman and Neville, also Senators Smallwood and Zenziger, concerning healthcare provider liens related to charges for healthcare provided to a person injured as a result of the negligence or wrongful acts of another person.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1300 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary report.
So the Judiciary report struck a part of the introduced bill concerning the registration of liens, reason being, as introduced, the SOS interpreted what we were asking them to do as requiring about a $60,000 expenditure, and it was going to take a year of work for some programming. We thought that there was a better way to do that, which is why we struck it in committee, and we have fortunately found the better way to do that. So I move L5 to the committee report and ask that it be displayed.
L5 has been moved and is properly displayed. To the amendment.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of the last week subsequent to Judiciary Committee talking with impacted organizations and the SOS to find a way to achieve registration of liens without driving cost and using existing infrastructure that the SOS already has for liens, and that's what L5 does. Here we are calling out the Colorado Statutory Lien Registration Act, which is existing law and is used for folks with other kinds of liens, and simply providing some direction for registration of this type of lien using that system and setting up the priority rules that we wanted to set up so there's clarity in events where multiple liens might be filed in the same matter. This achieves what we always wanted to achieve without waiting a year for more programming and without cost. So we ask for your support to L5.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment 5. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment 5 is passed. To the Judiciary report. Representative Weissman.
No further amendments to the committee report. We simply ask for adoption of the Judiciary report.
Any further question? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Judiciary report passes. To the bill. Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This bill is essentially putting some safeguards and tightening up around what's happening right now regarding medical lien holders. Right now, medical lien holders, essentially, they buy a receivable from a provider. Right now, it's not clear in court. You have different court cases. Sometimes they'll use that lien as discoverable in court cases. Sometimes they won't. And when they don't, there's actually no safeguards around usual and costs for medical bill providers. So this bill actually does put in some safeguards around that to make sure that the medical companies aren't billing over what is usual and customary. And we actually have an amendment that I think here shortly that will even strengthen that even more. So it's a good bill. It gives safeguards. But this industry really stood up when we moved from no fault to at fault, which was a great thing that really lowered rates for insurance companies. And so this industry really stood up to make sure that there was a way to cover that gap. It was a wonderful free market way to stand up and cover that gap for people that needed medical care. And we want to make sure that this industry still exists, doesn't get regulated as banks or insurance companies themselves, which would put them out of business entirely. And we look forward to this amendment. I think it'll strengthen the language even more.
Representative Weissman.
Just to add a little bit more, appreciate working on this with Rep. Neville, co-prime sponsor. Again, members, we're not creating anything new here. This industry is out there. It exists to fill a gap to help folks access health care where they're hurt in an accident. They may not have enough insurance to cover that, or they may end up waiting a year or more for an insurance matter to resolve in court, but people can't wait to get their body put back together and head back to work. So the bill is basically about putting some guardrails on this existing process. There were two lingering issues after committee. One of them we just resolved with the amendment to the committee report. The other one we've also been working on hard for the last week, and I will turn it over to Representative Tipper to talk about the amendment that we have to resolve that.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sponsors. As some of the folks in the chamber might remember, the bill has a bit of a storied history in our chamber, but as the representative said, medical lien companies address a need, which is when an individual is hurt in some type of accident, whether it's a slip and fall or a car accident, and they are either underinsured or uninsured, often those individuals cannot get access to medical care that they need. And so this industry steps in and essentially says, we will pay for your medical care in exchange for a lien on any future settlement or judgment. And I think we all recognize the benefit to individuals who need medical care, but some of the concerns last session were this is a completely unregulated industry. It's not an insurance company. It's not a provider. It's not a bank making a loan. And so what was sort of this gap felt like it could lend itself to some fraudulent or problematic practices that would have effect on the consumer market for healthcare. And so I really applaud the sponsors because this year's bill, in my opinion, is a significant improvement on last year's bill. There are a lot of consumer protections built into this bill. So for example, absent this bill, that patient could actually be liable for any amount not recovered in a settlement. And so the medical lien company would be able to go after not just the settlement amount, but any balance that the settlement amount didn't cover. And we felt that was pretty problematic. So among other things, this bill says medical lien companies can't charge fees and interest. They can't go after the patient for any monies that weren't recovered in the lien, foreclosure on the lien. And so for that reason, I really am grateful because it got me to a place where I could support this bill. The one outstanding issue was that while those consumer protection pieces I think were really important, there was no enforcement mechanism. And so what this amendment that I'm about to move does is actually put an enforcement mechanism in place, and my gratitude for this to the sponsors for working with me on this and really credit them for their willingness to do this. So I'll move the bill, or excuse me, move the motion. Wow, I'll move the amendment and then talk about it. So with that, I move amendment L006 to House Bill 1300 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L006 has been moved and properly displayed. Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so as I said, good consumer protection provisions in the bill. We recognize this is a valuable industry, but we wanted there to be teeth. So what this amendment does is it says, if a medical lien company basically violates those consumer protection provisions, doesn't actually comply with the provisions in the law, there is an action that can lie to invalidate part or all of the lien. And the only thing that I was worried about with this move was we didn't want to hold patients themselves, again, liable for anything that couldn't be recovered through the lien. So this also makes clear that the patient is held harmless even if part or all of the lien is invalidated because the medical lien company has violated the provisions of the statute. Again, I think we recognize the benefit. This, to me, makes this bill a good bill, and I ask for your support on the amendment.
Any further discussion on Amendment L6? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L6. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment 6 passes. Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a lot to add after the capable discussion of that one lingering issue from Rep. Tipper. We believe this is a good balance between some consumer protections in this industry space and this mechanism that we just adopted to hold the couple of bad actors who may be in the space accountable for improper billing practices should those happen. So we ask for your support.
Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, members, with that amendment, what it essentially does is says that if they try to go above and beyond usual and customary costs when they're billing it, they actually lose the lien. So there's now an enforcement mechanism in it as well, instead of us just giving the guidance of you can't go above usual and customary. And so with that, I do think this is a great bill that allows this industry to still continue to thrive and cover that gap, so we can still have low insurance rates at the at-fault coverage like we currently have in Colorado, but still cover that gap for other people. So I urge a yes vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1300. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1300 as amended passes. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1292.
House Bill 1292 by Representatives Baisley and Amabile, also Senator Story and Heisey, concerning a requirement for reporting revenues derived from sports betting activities.
You start. You're smarter at this than I am.
I don't think so.
Representative Amabile.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee report from Business and Labor for House Bill 1292. And also, I'd like to move the bill.
Thank you. To the committee report.
House Bill 1292.
Representative Amabile.
So in the committee, we offered one amendment, which clarified some of the language in the bill and also made clear that any information that is shared is proprietary and will not be made available to the public.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before.
Oh, not.
Good. Seeing no further discussion on the committee report, the question before us is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Amabile.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a pretty simple bill, actually. What it does is it asks the Gaming Commission to provide information to the county assessors in Gilpin and Teller County so that they can accurately perform property tax valuations. It does not change the way appraisal is conducted here in Colorado. It simply provides the data to conduct these appraisals and will help the counties assess the valuations in such a way that they are reflective of the new revenue that is being gained from sports betting.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to start out with a little mini apology to the members of the committee that were listening. I did not do a good job of explaining the basis for all of this regarding sports betting. So there are a number of bases for determining property tax. And for most homes and most businesses, or for all our homes and most businesses, the basis comes from the sale market value of the real property. But for businesses such as amusement parks, ice rinks, and casinos, the basis is called a special purpose going concern property. Now, it's a national standard that the assessors must follow that is assessed according to the revenue rather than the sale market value of the building. This bill, 1292, does not create a new tax basis, nor does it alter the way casinos are currently assessed and taxed. So what the bill does, it requires that the Commission on Gaming provide greater details in the sports betting report on which the assessors rely. So the current report shows the total revenue of all sports betting across Colorado. And what 1292 does, it asks that this be broken down by town, Central City, Black Hawk, and Cripple Creek, that Representative Amabile and I represent. And the breakout would separate that data at a very high level for the elected assessors in the two counties where that gaming exists. So the Gilpin County assessor would know how much revenue is generated for casinos located in Central City and Black Hawk, and the Teller County assessor would know how much revenue is generated for Cripple Creek. So without the passage of 1292, these two assessors will continue to appraise sports betting licensed casinos based on inaccurate estimates. So this bill merely equips the assessors with sufficient detail to more accurately apportion the revenue to casinos that hold sports betting license. So I hope that's useful. It's a utilitarian bill and simply gives the detail that the assessors need to do the job that they've always been doing. It does not change the tax basis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Neville.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I was a no vote on this bill in committee. I have concerns that really when we're getting down to property assessments, we should be really focused on the sticks and bricks and how much those sticks and bricks are actually worth. Now, you might have a movie theater, for instance. They're similarly taxed to a casino in this circumstance. And the movie theater may have been sitting empty for over a year. And they come to the assessor and say, look, our property is no longer worth what you used to evaluate it at because it's sitting empty. But meanwhile, they created an online streaming service that's doing really well. The assessor then can't come in and then say, well, because you're making other revenue elsewhere, it's now worth more, because the fact of the matter is the sticks and bricks, the seats in the movie theater are still not doing as well. They're still not worth what they used to be. It's the same thing with the casinos. If they have empty craps tables that aren't being used, those empty craps tables and the space within the casino itself, the actual sticks and bricks, may still not be worth the same amount because they're not doing as well with the actual valuation of those sticks and bricks within the casino. Now, they may have sports betting revenue that's being done online that's doing really well, but I think that's separate from the actual property assessment that we do. And so for those reasons, I have concerns. You take a look at other industries where there might be, like marijuana, for instance, is one where it's done in some localities than others. If a marijuana store has a large in-person facility and they're not doing really well, but then they start an online delivery service, and that does do really well, we don't then go in and change their assessment. And so I think this gets us a little bit away from the actual evaluation of the property itself and assessing more income-based. And for those reasons, I was a no.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Neville. I think addressing the basis for how properties are evaluated and taxed would be an interesting bill to carry in the future, but that's not what this bill addresses. So this bill merely asks the gaming commissioner, who's already providing this information, to make it more detailed. And that's all that it does, because the assessors are following the national standards required of them for a casino. And so what you're addressing would go to that, and maybe we could see if we can find a way to exempt Colorado's casinos from that national standard. But all this does is ask the gaming commissioner, instead of reporting, here's how much sports betting revenue came in for the state, to say, here's how much of that was generated by the towns of Gilpin, Black Hawk, and Central City. So that's all. It's just how they can, they're already taking a wild stab guess at how much that revenue went to each of those towns, and this would help them to be more accurate about it. For the fairness of each of those casinos, the casinos then can protest, is the term that they use, for trying to get down to the finer detail. But all this is about is requiring that more detail of the information already reported gets reported.
Representative Amabile.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my co-sponsor. And I would just add that there is the Casino Association understands and rightly agrees that the casinos should be using this sports betting revenue as part of their property tax evaluation. They've all agreed to that. So I ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that is entirely accurate that all the bill does is ask the gaming commissioner to change some of the things they're reporting, but it still does that with the intent of changing the property taxation, which is the sticks and bricks of how everything is taxed, to getting it more towards an income-based model and a profit-based model, not for income taxes or anything like that, but for property taxes, which is very different. And applying a national standard to Colorado taxation law, actually, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because our taxation law, especially when it comes to property taxes in the state of Colorado, really doesn't reflect any other state. We have one of the most complex taxing schemes of any of the 50 states, especially with local control and things like that. So this simply moves it towards more of an income-based property. And a good example is if there's a Target and Walmart right across the street from each other in the same county in the same location. If the Target, for example, or Walmart, one of them starts a big online business and is starting to make more money off their online business. They don't get taxed differently. That assessor in that county would still come in and assess essentially that Target and the Walmart basically the same based on square footage and location. And if they're across the street from each other, the same size, they should be taxed relatively the same. Not one taxed much more because they have that online business operating out of their back room, and the other one doesn't, so they get taxed less. And so those were some of my issues with the bill. I appreciate both bill sponsors very adamantly supporting their communities that they represent, but I think it's stepping into further complexing, making complex our already complex tax code. And so that reason I was a no vote in committee.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll assume responsibility yet again for not being clear. This, in the case of a Walmart that then begins delivering its products through an online service, yeah, that would not change the tax basis for that Walmart, unless the online service that it was performing was sports betting. Because once a property is dedicated to casinos, then it has a different basis for taxation. And I've only come to understand this recently myself, just obviously in working this bill and responding to the requests from the assessors that I represent. But the basis for property valuation for most businesses is the real property of the business, of the real property that it sits on, the building, just like our homes. And it has nothing to do with the revenue generated. But only in these special purpose districts, special purpose businesses, like an ice rink, and I'm not defending it, just that's how those that information or those businesses are assessed. They're assessed based on their revenue. I don't defend that. That's just how that industry performs their business. So all we're trying to do is help those assessors to understand, to see what the accurate information is, because their goal, they keep repeating to us, we're not trying to over-assess or under-assess, we're just trying to accurately assess. So again, if the way a casino or an ice rink and the other examples that they've given us are not, if we don't like the way that they are assessed, their property is assessed, then let's address that in a future bill. But this merely provides more detail for the assessors for how they are required to assess currently. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before this is the passage of House Bill 1292. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1292 as amended passes. Mr. Guerrero, please read the title of Senate Bill 35.
Senate Bill 35 by Senator Rodriguez, also Representative Byrd, concerning restrictions on certain practices by third-party food delivery services.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 35.
To the bill.
Yes, members, Senate Bill 35 simply prohibits third-party delivery services from distributing and selling a restaurant's food without a written agreement permitting it first. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Neville.
Members, I was a no vote on this bill as well. There are many concerns, but actually one of the examples I brought up in committee, I was hoping we might see an amendment on this, is this bill would literally make it illegal. Say my family gets COVID, we're quarantined, I reach out to the 16-year-old that lives 3 houses down from me, and I say, hey, we want to get Chinese food. Will you go ahead and order it and bring the receipt back? We'll pay you whatever the cost is for the receipt and plus an additional $10. Under this bill, that would literally be an illegal activity. So, I mean, it doesn't just limit it to corporations or online services. The bill in itself actually says person in there. So, I mean, I probably would still be against it even with corporations, because I think there is something to say that once you've bought and purchased that food, you're now the owner. So if you want to contract with someone else for delivery, I think that's fine. If we were to limit it to the using of logos, things like that, I'd be okay with that, but we actually go into just delivery. So I was a no for that. I think this is an important space, especially with what we've seen this last year, and I think this is going to discourage a lot of this. This really just says that they can prohibit this activity and make it illegal when I think people are just trying to start a business. It's one more thing that's going to get in the way of entrepreneurship and innovation in Colorado.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
All right. This bill gives me heartburn, okay? There's some issues with this. I think this bill is a direct attack on hamburgers. It furthers the war on burgers. And I think I'm going to give everybody an example why I have a few issues with this bill. I'm going to give a scenario. So I want a Baconator. And with extra cheese. So I get online and I order it. And I pay with my credit card. So I own the hamburger now. It's made, it's set up on the counter now. I own it. I'm sitting at home. Thank you for the Tums. No, I don't know what's in this, but no props. So I paid for my Baconator online. I own it. They make it. They put it on the counter. And let's just say hypothetically that they have a delivery service. Baconator is probably not the best. Let's say Jim Bob's Hamburger Shop. They have their own delivery. But I think it's kind of hefty. I think it's kind of expensive. So there's this third-party delivery service struggling, fighting to make ends meet, small business. And they say, Shane, I can go pick up your hamburger at a cheaper price than Jim Bob's employees will do it. Would you like me to go pick that up? And then I say, yes. I'm struggling to make ends meet. Any way I can save a buck, I'll save it on the delivery service. So the third party and me, the customer who ultimately owns the hamburger now, agrees. I want the third party to come over and pick up my hamburger and bring it because it's cheaper than the delivery service that the restaurant has. Well, this bill makes that illegal because what can happen is the restaurant owner can say, no, that third party cannot bring your hamburger to me. But I'm saying, but I own the hamburger now, I already paid for it via credit card. Why can't I have that third party pick it up? Well, the restaurant can go, I don't care if you own the hamburger now. We're not going to allow that third party to pick it up. You have to use our delivery service, which is at a steeper price, to deliver your hamburger. That's a monopoly. And it concerns me that after I buy the hamburger and have ownership, that the restaurant can still come in and block me from deciding who can pick up that hamburger and deliver it to me. I already own it. So think about that. Think about that if you purchase something and the business you purchased it from can block it from having you bring a third party in to pick it up at possibly a cheaper price. And even, truthfully, even if it's not a cheaper price, what if you don't feel comfortable with the restaurant's delivery service? What if you don't think it's sanitary? What if you don't like how the food is brought to you? And you want to pay more for a third party that's maybe more sanitary, who knows, that has better reviews, to go pick up your hamburger and bring it. Well, this bill can block it. It can say the owner of the restaurant can go, no, you're going to use ours, whether you like it or not. So, something to ponder over. Think about it. Are you all ready? No? Keep going. Okay. So keep on going. The war on hamburgers. Are you done?
Representative Neville.
You want to take a turn? Okay. There's your prop. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, to get back to kind of what we were discussing earlier, so this bill actually defines any delivery service as a person, company, website. So person is kind of one of the things that I really have concern with, because I could actually foresee the circumstance that, gosh, this 16-year-old that lives down three houses down from me is just a really good kid, and I want to stay at home and watch my kids. I don't want to run to the pizza store or the Chinese food store. I just want to hire that kid. I mean, look, I don't want to pay for the actual delivery from the company. Maybe the company doesn't even offer delivery service, but this kid's just a really good kid, so I want to do the right thing. I like to mow my own lawn, so I can't force the kid, so I don't hire the kid to mow my own lawn, but I want to do whatever I can to support this kid and teach this kid a good work ethic. But the bill itself would actually outlaw that poor kid if this was a continued service and not just friendship. If I just kept saying, look, I love it when this person actually goes and picks up my food and brings it to the family, actually trust them more than someone I've never met, it would actually outlaw that. So it goes more above and beyond actually just limiting like a big website or a big corporation that's doing this, or some sort of network sharing app that's doing this. It would actually outlaw just that poor little 16-year-old kid going in there. We could say, well, maybe there's no enforcement mechanism, but still, if there's no enforcement mechanism, that's not the intent of the bill, then we shouldn't be doing that in statute. So I think this goes above and beyond even what the intent of the bill is. And really, I like the aspect of teaching kids work ethic and entrepreneurship. And without that amendment, I have real big heartburn on the bill. Might need some of these, even though there's no props in the well. But even without that, I still think this is a bad bill that's going to decrease innovation in the state.
Representative Byrd. Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L003.
L003 has been moved and is properly displayed to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my concern with this right now is it reads as a third-party delivery service means any person, company, website, or, and it's got some ors in there. And so if you just read it as third-party delivery service means any person, and then the next line is shall not take and arrange delivery or pickup from any third-party delivery. So that means person. So what my amendment does is it simply strikes person, because this is a bill that I do want to vote for, and I get what the restaurants are trying to do. However, had to be a no vote in committee because I'm worried about just making something illegal that nobody really wants to make illegal. So I offer this amendment just to strike person, so it focuses more on the companies, the websites, the mobile applications, and internet services that arrange for the sale and delivery of food.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I think this is a good amendment. I urge a yes vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L3. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment 3 passes. To the bill, Representative Byrd.
I urge a yes vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 35 as amended. Oops. All those in favor, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 35 as amended passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 81 to the end of the second reading calendar.
Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 81 will be laid over. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1105.
House Bill 1105 by Representative Kennedy, also Senator Hansen, concerning utility customers' financial contributions for low-income utility assistance.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1105 and the Finance and Appropriations Committee reports.
To the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the Appropriations Committee report, I move Amendment L21 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment has been moved and is properly displayed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment makes a few clarifications requested by two of the departments we worked with, as well as reducing the general fund appropriation by $250,000. I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L21. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L21 passes. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the Appropriations Committee report, not only did we make an appropriation, but we made some clarifications to what appeared in the Finance Committee report. I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The appropriation report passes. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L18 to the Finance Committee report.
Amendment L18 has been moved and is properly displayed. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment makes clarifications to how water utilities are included in the bill, mostly non-substantive, but just to clarify the intent, I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L18. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L18 passes. To the bill, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I still have one more amendment to the Finance Committee report, so I move Amendment L19 and ask that it be displayed.
To Amendment L19, which has been moved and is properly displayed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, one of the things that this bill does is it eliminates a severance tax transfer to certain programs because we're replacing it with a new revenue stream. This catches a couple of cross-references and makes sure they're all clear. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L19. All those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes, yeses have it. Amendment L19 passes. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the Finance Committee report, we made a number of changes. This was the first committee of reference after we'd done a number of stakeholder meetings, and so we made a variety of different changes at this time. I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Finance Committee report passes. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I'm really excited about the bill this year. What this bill does is it creates a sustainable funding stream for Colorado's utility assistance and weatherization programs. It also sets up a process to maximize cross-enrollment between our supplemental nutrition programs and our low-income energy assistance program so that we can maximize the number of eligible people that are enrolled, and it maximizes their potential to receive the maximum amount of federal SNAP funding. I think it's a great bill that will really help low-income Coloradans who are struggling right now, and I ask for your support.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage. Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I oppose this bill in committee, and I'm going to oppose it now on its second and third readings as well. Even though I think it is important that we assist as many people as possible, and one aspect of the bill that the sponsor mentioned towards the end of his presentation on the SNAP program, which allows us to draw down federal funds for this program. This is really being done on increasing the utility rates of all people. And a lot of people are struggling right now, even those that can afford their utility bill to some extent. And I don't think this is a good time to add to someone's utility bill. And more importantly, one of my biggest concerns about this bill is the entity that is going to be distributing these funds, which is the Energy Outreach Colorado. That is a nonprofit that I know does good work. It puts out grants to organizations around the state that delivers these assistance programs. Most nonprofits really struggle to stay in business, and they raise money. This is a nonprofit that raises roughly $40,000 a year because it doesn't have to. It operates basically on funds coming from the state or coming from we people who pay our utility bills. And that's fine to use that model, but when I look at an organization like that, where looking at their tax reports, the head of the agency, and remember this is a nonprofit agency that doles out state funds or funds that come from utility payers, that in 2016 the chair earned $328,000 and a $71,000 bonus. The following year in 17, another almost $324,000, $64,000 bonus. Most recent year that's showing is 2019, and the new chair received $302,000 in salary and roughly over $40,000 in bonuses. And that is not a bad thing for organizations, but this is based on state money. We don't have people that work and run departments that are paid those kinds of salaries and receive those kinds of bonuses. I think before we start doling out and giving up to another $39 million, I'm not sure the exact amount, but whatever money, even if it's $5 million that comes in, that should not be used for salaries for a nonprofit that we fund, and people are still out there not getting the assistance that they need to help them pay their utility bills. And for that reason, I oppose this bill and would encourage a no vote.
Representative Mollica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the sponsor for bringing this. Members, when we think about utilities, we often think about heat and gas and electricity. One of the utilities that we don't often think about, though, is water. And it was an issue that we tried to address during the special session last year, and we weren't able to get that across the finish line. But it's a real utility, and it's a utility that gets bigger and bigger when you're not paying it, and it's something that I think is often overlooked. And I just want to commend the sponsor for making sure that in this bill that we're doing that, in addition to the other utilities which are extremely important to be able to help Coloradans in what is a difficult time, but even more difficult with this pandemic. And I just wanted to make sure that that he gets the credit that he deserves for really focusing on that issue, because I think it's really going to change the trajectory and making sure that when we're looking at utilities that we're not just focusing on the electricity and the gas, but that water is a part of that conversation. And I'm going to be a proud yes today and thank him again for working on this.
Representative Black.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in opposition to this bill. Much like Representative Benavides, I am concerned about the household budgets of people in my district and the burdens we're placing on them, especially in this time of increasing inflation. If you guys have been to the grocery store recently, you have seen what our people are experiencing with just trying to buy standard goods. This bill, when we look at it, would say that utility companies must charge a fee to certain members of their customer base. That fee would then be redirected to a nonprofit organization, which again, as Representative Benavides pointed out, there are concerns about how those dollars would be spent and whether they would actually go to provide the assistance that is necessary to the people that this bill is designated to assist. And then those dollars from that nonprofit would be directed to, presumably, a group of individuals who are needing to upgrade their homes for greater energy efficiency and who meet a particular standard economically. It's concerning to me because I have individuals within my district who will say to me, Stephanie, I don't know whether to buy my medication, my food, or pay my rent this month. And when we add additional dollars to their bills, those determinations become even more difficult. I can't support this bill for a number of reasons, but I especially can't support it because we're just placing more burdens on people who are already burdened. It matters not that the intention of this bill is to lessen the burden of some, if it ends up burdening all. Thank you.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I very much appreciate the concerns that were just expressed by my colleague. That's why this bill has an exemption process for low-income utility customers so that they don't have to pay the fee. Not only that, but by getting them enrolled in these programs, they will actually benefit more from the revenue that's coming into this program. So for low-income utility customers, this bill will keep more money in their pockets.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I had a few concerns in committee with this bill. I think everybody in this room would like lower bills associated with our utilities, or assist people who need assistance. But I think the question is this the way? I don't want the cost of my constituents being the cost or the increases or the fees that my constituents will pay for to go to bonuses or high salaries to somebody else. I have a concern. My constituents are high-level taxpayers. They have a concern too. I think we're getting to the point where the taxpayers really getting burdened with so many responsibilities to pay for assistance to different groups. Just because you make a halfway decent salary doesn't mean you have bills to pay as well. We need to really refine how we look at this. Maybe instead of feeing people and transferring that will to somebody else, maybe we could issue policies that actually bring down the cost of utilities, or not have policies that increase the cost of utilities to burden the less fortunate. I know when there's cost increases, the people in my neck of the woods, they're able probably to absorb that cost a little bit more than maybe a person that doesn't make as much. But instead of having policies that increase the cost of utilities, then having other constituents pay for that cost, just doesn't seem the right way to go. I think we could look at situations where lower the costs across the board, lower the bills of the most vulnerable, and that's how we could help them out. But I guess transferring wealth and paying for high salaries or bonuses just isn't the way to go at this time. So I recommend a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in opposition to this as well. I spent 2 terms, 8 years on the utility board of our municipal utility, 4 service utilities, including all of these things. Did the deep dive into those finances of each one of those standalone, all incorporated with one. I always hesitate to say I did a deep dive into wastewater, but did that too. What this does is one of the common failings in government, which is to load things onto a cash stream, a cash cow, that then turns around and pay everybody else something else, whether it is low income or some other program. In this case, you're going to raise the utility rates of everybody to pay for the low income program. And I noticed correct me if I'm wrong, this is only focused on investor-owned utilities, is that correct? And yet we're going to do this on water, which predominantly is municipal utilities. We have a program. Our nonprofit municipal utility has a program that does very similar to this, provides low-income assistance. It's a voluntary program on the part of those who want to contribute. Anytime you raise the rates on utilities, you're going to spread that over everybody who's paying that, and then come back in there and you're going to exempt from this fee the low income. The low income category isn't going to cover everybody that is low income. It only covers within a certain percentages. But you're raising the rates for everybody to go transfer those funds to a low income assistance. That duplicates programs that are in place in a lot of utilities. Like I say again, we provide low income assistance through voluntary checkoffs that people do for several different programs. That's that's the way to approach an issue like this. Anything that's going to raise over everybody is transferring their wealth and penalizing those who aren't in that low income bracket. I urge a no vote on this.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to express that I totally understand those concerns. And when it comes to water utilities in this bill just creates a structure so that a local water utility can opt in and create their own customer assistance program. So this bill itself does not create a water assistance program. It just creates a structure for local water utilities.
Representative Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. About the fee, it's more akin to a tax in that most fee payers will not derive any benefit from paying. It is also one of the pure forms of redistribution that we will see in statute. This bill gives broad authority to determine who is considered a low-income utility customer to the Department of Human Services. It removes the requirement that a household be at or below 185% of the current federal poverty line and income eligibility as required by the department, and instead replaces the and with or, therefore giving the department broad authority to expand who is eligible. This could be a good thing, as more people might be included, but we should not be giving this type of regulatory authority to the department. Only 50% of the revenue collected can be used for direct utility bill payment assistance, and it seems the other 50% must be used for energy retrofits to low-income households within the investor-owned utility service territory. I urge a no vote.
All right. Additional discussion, Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too rise in opposition to this bill. I was in the Finance Committee when it came through, and I remember Representative Benavides' discussion with a chairman of one of the utilities companies, and one of the things that bothered me the most was you are asking me, a relatively mid-income level person, to give up a couple more bucks every month to help the assistance for low income. If that were all that were going to happen, I'm very generous that way. I would agree to it. But it isn't just to help them with their energy bill. That money goes for other things, and I just can't go with that. And then I get reading down here, and this is Amendment L 020, and it says that at least 2% of the money collected from that charge is to be used to engage the assistance of community-based organizations that are active in outreach. 2, engagement of and education for income qualified communities, communities of color, and immigrant communities to help provide outreach and education about the utility assistance programs. Not a bit of that sounds like help on a utility bill. That sounds like it's going to other things that I'm not more sure I want my money to go to. So if we cannot create an opt-in, opt-out, I'm not sure that this is something that we should be having here in our statute. Thank you.
Representative Pico. Members, please take your conversations off the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, the statement was made that this is going to put a structure in place for water utilities. We already have that. Water utilities are almost all municipally owned or water district owned. They're public utilities. We already have all of those programs in place. We already do provide low-income assistance through a variety of voluntary programs. What this does is, once again, add another mandatory fee on top of it. And let me just hit some of the things. Government is loading onto the utilities a number of issues that require funding, which goes directly into the fees. Any utility is funded by the rates, period. That's where the money comes from. And anything you load onto those utilities is going to increase that cost. And this is just another program that's going to load it on and then turn around and do something which the majority of companies, if not all, are already doing. I think this is redundant. It is something that's going to add a layer of government into something which is already done by the utilities, and I urge a no vote.
All right, Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, bill sponsor, for this bill. And I do appreciate House Bill 21-1105 and the intention that it is to reach out and provide that steady stream of funding for the low-income assistance program. I do understand. I understand the model and the structure. But if I could have the floor's attention, Mr. Chair, so I can barely hear myself up here.
Everybody, please move your conversations off the floor if you're speaking to somebody else.
Thank you.
Representative Holtorf, please proceed.
In the spirit of the highest levels of decorum and protocol, I wish to talk about a grave concern that was brought up earlier. I feel that as a production agriculturalist and a farmer in eastern Colorado, we try to harvest the land for maximum productivity. But when I hear the testimony that the CEOs of the specific nonprofit organization that manages this program is being paid in excess of $400,000 for that service, I grow concerned, because I fear that we have a climate where certain entities are trying to harvest the government's goodwill and the programs that are to benefit people other than ourselves. I'm really concerned about this. And this particular bill truly not intentional, but will provide that steady stream of money that will continue to feed what is this perceived harvesting or possibly real harvesting of the dollars that are to go, in this case, specifically to the low-income citizens of Colorado. So in talking with Representative Benavidez, I brought forth an amendment that I think will secure these funds for the people that it is intended to serve. The low-income Colorado citizens that are in need, that should be the largest beneficiary of this legislation. So with that, I'm going to offer L023 to House Bill 1105 and ask that it be displayed.
All right, L023 has been moved.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. And is properly displayed. Representative Benavides.
Thank you, members. And Representative Holtorf did tell me about his amendment, which I took a quick look at, and I know the sponsor is looking at it now. And effectively, it's this additional funds right now when we're really struggling, and because these funds also do create a requirement for all ratepayers of these utilities to pay that additional fee. And I know the sponsor, when that was raised, it started out, I think it was $2 per ratepayer for, so it was a total of like $4, and that got reduced significantly down. And so I think that the only issue, like I said, that I have, and you know, there's other ways to address the issue with the salaries paid to a nonprofit that receives some state funding, and I'll look into doing those apart from this bill. But in general, if people are being asked to pay more, they should be assured that that additional amounts that they're paying will be used for the purposes outlined and not for something other than that. So, with that, I think I want to thank Representative Holtorf for bringing the amendment, and I think if the amendment should pass, it certainly will. The amendment has my support, and it'll gain my support on the bill if it should pass, because again, I think that it should be the people paying this additional fee should be assured that they won't be. So thank you, members, and I urge a yes vote on the amendment.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the suggestion, Representative Holtorf. I would have appreciated a little bit more advance notice to review this and make sure I understand it, but I think the concept seems clear to me. The intent was never to use this money for employee salaries. The intent was always that these dollars would go directly back into the pockets of low-income utility customers. So I consider this a friendly amendment and ask for your support.
All right, Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do thank the bill sponsor for considering this. In the committee of the whole, it is not my intention to do anything but make sure that the people that are most in need in Colorado get the support from this program. I do understand that those that are paying utilities now have to bear that burden in the form of a fee. And I do have the concern of more and more fees piled on to Colorado citizens to carry these burdens. But I will tell you, this is a good amendment. I thank the bill sponsor for his support. I thank the colleagues on the other side of the aisle for their consideration, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L023? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L023. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. L23 is adopted. Any further discussion on 1105? Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
And I come up in opposition to this bill. I'll give the reasoning behind it is, you know, this used to get paid for out of severance tax money, and I think we know what happened to severance tax money. It was Tier 2 severance tax money that paid for these programs, and this is just another way to fund it since we don't have much for severance tax anymore because of oil and gas and probably Senate Bill 181 and our coal mine shutting down and our power plants. So I'm in opposition to this because of that. And I think when severance tax was paying for this, it was fine. Now we're spreading it out to everybody, and I'll be a no on this bill. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1105. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. 1105 is passed. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1134.
House Bill 1134 by Representatives Ricks and Bradfield, also Senator Bridges, concerning facilitating the reporting of tenants' rent payment information to consumer reporting agencies at the tenant's request.
All right, Representative Ricks. Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1134, the Appropriation Report and the Business Affairs and Labor Report.
All right, to the Appropriations Report.
In appropriations, we appropriated money for the program.
Any further discussion on the Appropriations Report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of that Appropriations Report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Appropriations Report is adopted. To the Business Affairs and Labor Report.
In business and labor, we did a strike below, and that got voted in and approved.
All right, any further discussion on the Business Affairs and Labor Report? Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Business Committee Labor Report, there should actually be great discussion because that is the bill now. So if we're going to talk on the bill, we have to talk on the Business Affairs and Labor Committee report. And I have an amendment to it. So allow me to move L007.
L007 has been moved and is properly displayed. Representative Van Winkle, tell us about the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, this doesn't actually change any substantial part of the bill. It simply adds words to the legislative declaration. And those words, let's see, I will just read it. If I can find my committee report, the proper committee report here. Here it is. So the legislative declaration includes a great amount of language here. In one piece it says, page 2, line 9, it says, for renters, the rental payment is often their single largest credit or contractual obligation. And then I add after that, and perpetual interference from government has disrupted the natural supply and demand market forces, resulting in reduced affordable options for those who truly need it. And my reason for this, it's not even necessarily this bill in particular, though this bill it is pertinent to, but there are several pieces of legislation, and I'll speak to this piece of legislation before us that interferes in, what it's doing is every time we pass something such as this on to the landlords of Colorado, folks who rent homes in districts like mine where they actually are single-family homes are choosing, instead of going through the headaches of new rules and regulations passed by government that makes their lives more difficult, they're simply seeing the value of that home in selling out, which is doing great damage to the rental market in communities like mine. And I would like to see more supply on the market for rental communities. And like I said, it doesn't actually change anything in the bill. It's just simply a statement in the legislative declaration.
Further discussion on L007? Representative Ricks.
I ask for a no vote. This is a pilot program that will not impact anything to do with the rental stock in the market.
All right, is there any further discussion on Amendment L007? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L007. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. L007 is lost. To the Business Affairs and Labor Report. Representative Williams?
Williams wants to speak.
Okay.
Representative Bradfield.
Thank you. In the business affairs, the amendment there was strike below, and it changed the bill, made it better, made it a stronger bill, and I ask for a yes vote.
All right. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So members, I have an amendment here. I'll just go ahead and move it and then explain it. I move L008 and ask for it to be displayed.
All right, L008 has been moved and is displayed. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So members, if you look at the Business Committee report on page 4, starting at lines 10 through 19, this is where I'm trying to capture this amendment. It would effectively strike out 10 through 19 and then substitute the phrase select the participant landlords randomly. And the reason I did that is because if you look on page 5, where we talk about participant landlords and with respect to compensation, it says they shall be paid from money received by the authority from the state treasurer pursuant to section 24-36-123. I felt that it was necessary, especially since we're giving the contractor pretty good leeway on helping to select these participant landlords. I thought it was necessary that we go ahead and allow those who are interested to be participant landlords, to allow them to, of course, let them know of their interest, but at the end of the day that they're randomly selected, because we are using state resources in order to compensate these individuals. And if we're going to be using state resources to compensate these individuals, then we obviously don't want any undue influence or even the appearance of that happening within this pilot program. So, everyone who wants to participate, come and let your interest be known. But at the end of the day, we're going to randomly select who these individuals are so as to ensure that this pilot program is being conducted with integrity and above reproach. So I would simply ask for a yes vote on this. I don't think it takes away from what the bill sponsors are trying to do, and I would hope that it's a friendly amendment.
Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for a no vote on that amendment because this is intended to help underrepresented, low-income people and people in rural communities. So it's going to be a wide range of tenants that are included in this pilot program. So I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion on L008? Representative Van Winkle.
Hey, Mr. Chair, just a few questions. I know that's the intent of the bill, but what this is actually dealing with isn't the tenants themselves. This is dealing with the money that's going to the landlords through the contractor that's labeled in the bill. And I'm desperately searching through the new strike below that's about to be adopted here, and trying to find. I know there's money here. I don't see it. How much money and how much goes to each landlord for helping to assist in the creation of this program?
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L008? Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm struggling to find it, so I'm asking, and one of the bill sponsors just tell me how much, maybe not to each landlord, maybe don't go into that detail, just how much money the overall program will be allocating.
Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This pilot program has a fiscal note of $205,000. Okay?
All right. Further discussion, Representative Van Winkle.
And just so I can do some quick math in my head, and then how many landlords will be included in the pilot program? So I can do 200,000 divided by however many.
Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Representative Van Winkle, for that question. It is probably going to be 10, minimum of 10 landlords.
All right. Is there further discussion? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to take a moment to kind of get back into this part of it since I'm the amendment sponsor here. And while I understand the intent of the bill sponsors, and I even will commend the good intentions here, I still think there's an issue that we should address here with respect to accountability and checks and balances, and that's why I offered this amendment. Again, if you look at page 5, it talks about compensation, right, and having these participant landlords receive state funds. And if I'm doing the math correctly, it's roughly about $20,000 if it's 200 odd sum divided by 10. In any event, though, I think if we're going to be expending state resources in order to have this pilot program be conducted, then I don't understand why we couldn't have these landlords, these participant landlords, randomly selected so as to avoid any impropriety or perception of impropriety. This is taxpayer dollars, essentially. This money belongs to the people. And, I think if you look at the strike bill here, it does give broad discretion to the contractor to work with, forgive me because I didn't mark this down, but he or she is supposed to work with, I think, associations to help determine and find these participant landlords. But at the end of the day, I don't think we shouldn't give that much discretion to the contractor in order to do that, which is why I think it's necessary that we invite everyone in who's willing to participate in this pilot program. But if money's going to be spent, then let's go ahead and randomly select them so that there's no questions of picking winners and losers and doling out taxpayer money to them. Thank you.
Further discussion on L8, Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to set the record just perfectly straight so there's no confusion for the watching people or folks at home. It is $200,000, actually $205,000 for the overall program, but $50,000 that will go to the third party, to the contractor, the consultant that will be hired. So $50,000 go to that. $5,000 goes to financial educational program for program participants. That's something, of course, we could do more of in the state of Colorado is financial literacy, things like that, for those who wish to have it. And then it's actually $150,000, not $200,000, going to those 10 landlords. So it's not $20,000 to the landlords. It's about $15,000 to each participating landlords. One, to set the record straight. I think because it is taxpayer money going to each of those landlords, that it should be, this is a good amendment that just puts protections and belts and suspenders on it to make sure it's not going to be, say, friends or family of the consultant that gets hired and brought in, and it just makes it more random. So I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Van Bibber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just also want to set the record straight. The word rural is not in this bill. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on L008? Seeing none, the question before us, the adoption of Amendment L008. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. L008 is lost. To the Business Affairs and Labor Report, Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, in the original bill, it opens like this. It says the bill creates a tenant's rent payment pilot program and directs the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority to contract with a third party to administer the pilot program in accordance with the rules promulgated by the authority. The administrator shall recruit no more than 10 landlords to participate in the pilot program. Tenant may participate in the pilot program only if the tenant elects to participate and completes a financial education course. On or before January, the authority, in consultation with the administrator, shall submit to applicable legislative committees a reference report concerning the pilot program and its programs appealed effective in 2024. Straightforward, and it's great. And I see the intent there, and it's a worthy intent, especially for this body to consider helping out folks when they are hurting. But the new version, the strike below, now adds all of this comparison of racial comparison that I think is extraneous and divisive, and I'll read just some of it. According to a recent study, homeownership amounts to 53% of wealth for blacks and 39% of wealth for whites. Roughly 15% of blacks and Latinos are credit invisible compared to 10% of whites, and Latinos credit unscorable compared to 7% of whites, and so on. I feel in my head and heart we need to get away from adding, for not any healthy reason, for not any constructive reason, all the racial components to this. If folks need our help, it's because of their financial condition, and it's irrespective of race. I really would like for us to get to a point where we're taking Martin Luther King's wisdom to heart, embrace that. I love Dr. Martin Luther King. I love what he said, what he taught us, and we need to help people out because they are financially in a position where they need that help, and it is irrelevant, irrespective to their racial makeup. So towards that, Mr. Chairman, I move L006 and ask that it be displayed.
All right, L006 has been moved. All right, Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, with all due respect to what is intended by the bill, and I appreciate what's intended by the bill, and I appreciate my colleagues who brought the bill in the first place. It's a worthy conversation that we ought to have. This removes all of the racial component of this, which is extraneous, does not add anything to the intent of the bill, and it would establish in statute language that, again, is just in tremendous, and I find offensive, conflict with what Dr. Martin Luther King instructed us in the first place. And I'd hope that y'all would consider this amendment in light of what it's intended, not to take away from the bill, but rather to strip away those things that make the bill a little more of a divisive conversation. So with all respect, I ask for an aye vote or a yes vote on this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion on L006. Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to my colleague, Representative Baisley. The purpose of the legislative declaration is to talk about why this is important. Why is it important for us to build credit for people, whether they're in rural communities, low-income communities, and basically for people of color. There are so many people who are credit invisible, which means that they have no credit score. They have no opportunity to purchase goods and services. Some people are unbanked. So what we're doing with this program is to allow people to voluntarily opt into a rental program that will report their rental history. And by reporting rental history, they will build credit. It allows them now to buy homes, buy a car at a lower interest rate, will be able to maybe get a credit card that they couldn't get before. So we're speaking to the reason why this bill is important, and that's why that language is in the bill. So I ask for a no vote on your amendment. Thank you.
Representative Baisley. Representative Tipper.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative. And you and I have kind of had this conversation offline, so I think I appreciate where you're coming from. But my perspective would be, just as Representative Rick said, I think it's important to demonstrate need. And while, we had this conversation in another context, one, the bill says, for example, reporting rental payments is a way to even the playing field and enable communities of color, lower income households, and residents of rural communities. I think there was earlier a question that the word rural is not in the bill, and it is with the committee report, to justify the expense. So we understand. And so, for example, the other thing I think about is, because of this pandemic, we have seen women exit the workforce at an astounding rate. That's really important when we craft policies moving forward about investments that we're going to make with stimulus dollars, for example, in childcare, which is a bill that I'm running with one of my Republican colleagues. And so the fact that policies have affected certain communities, I think, is critical to why we would endorse and move forward with the policy. So to me, it's actually incredibly important to have this language in recognition that certain policies have not just left people out, but frankly, historically pushed people out, and that we as a legislature can recognize that and try and remedy that. And again, that's not just for communities of color, but low-income households and rural communities, which we often talk about in the well. So with that, I ask for a no vote.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Representative Tipper. I appreciate your kind thoughts and kind words as well. Folks of low income, rural, that makes sense. That's who we ought to be helping out. Not that we shouldn't help out everybody, but that's the circumstances. So, at any rate, again, the reference to race, I think, is irrelevant. We ought to be helping folks out because they need our help, and not to say because you're of a particular race. That's where I want to get away from. Anyway, I think that's just a healthier way for us to be there. And I frankly like what you're doing, you know, and I think, yeah, there comes a time when we do, especially from what this nation and state has been through over the past year. We break the mold and we help people out. But we help people out because they need help. We don't help people out for some demographic reason other than they're Americans, they're Coloradans, they need our help. So anyway, I asked for a yes vote. I think it's the right, we end up with the right verbiage in the bill if we remove this language, which I don't see adds anything to the motivation for the bill. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on L006? Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Esteemed colleagues, I understand this particular amendment and its intent from the amendment sponsor, because I too hope that someday in the near future we can make this journey to look at all people as humans in this country and end the racial division that is and should be in future time abolished, so we can all be Americans walking as one. So I understand the intent of this amendment. I don't know if this state or this country is ready to take this journey, but is it a journey that we all must begin to travel? This particular amendment is one step towards that journey. Whether we are ready in this chamber or this state to begin taking those steps is largely in question. But I will tell you, this is a step that we want to take as a state and as a country. Now, with respect to this intent and the bill sponsor's comment about credit invisible, I understand that. I have many in my House district that come from far southern regions that may speak Spanish better than I, that also are in this category. So this particular effort may be the first step towards helping those individuals to operate in the financial conditions that we set in this country to succeed. Now, I will say that I do have my concerns, because credit can be a very dangerous scenario for many people. So I also have reservations on both sides of this, but I do support this amendment's intent for what it says and what it means, and I am willing to take that first step, and I encourage others to take that first step so we can all journey to the place that Martin Luther King spoke of. Now, my colleague here to my right didn't mention it, but I would like to repeat it because I think it bears being said. And I will not quote it perfectly, but in paraphrasing, I will say that we all should be judged by the quality of our character and not the color of our skin. Let us begin that journey where we all walk as Americans. And this amendment may be that first step for us to begin that journey. Thank you, Mr. Chair and esteemed colleagues, for your attention.
Any further discussion? Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Chair. And simply, I asked for a yes vote on this as well. Thank you, Representative, for bringing this amendment. I think it doesn't change the bill at all. I believe it's only the legislative declaration. It gets rid of many of the troublesome aspects for many of the people in the state of Colorado. I mean, I'm not sure about, quote, wealth for blacks versus, quote, wealth for whites. And then even lines like home ownership plays a bigger role in building wealth for communities of color than it does for white households. I think many white households might disagree with that, that for them too it is important for building wealth and building their communities as home ownership. So I ask for a yes vote on this and thank the representative for bringing it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L006. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it. Amendment L006 fails. To the committee report. Representative Bradfield.
Thank you for receiving it.
Is there any further discussion on the committee?
Any further discussion on the committee report? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to, the committee report here is essentially the bill, and so I'm just going to speak to this and then go ahead and conclude my remarks here. But essentially, members, I rise in opposition to the report, which will soon become the bill. And I rise in opposition to it because I happen to believe that this work is already being conducted in the private sector. And this is not the proper role of government. And I think that when we start doing these types of things, you really start interfering with free markets and the economic system that we have. I know it's a pilot program. I understand the intent here is to try and help people get better credit so that they can be lent more money so as to purchase a home or whatever they wish to purchase. But at the end of the day, there are businesses out there that are willing to help those who are in a tight spot. To help them not only become educated financially and how to obtain good credit worthiness, so to speak. And those are the individuals. Those businesses are helping those individuals, and those individuals are taking it upon themselves. Those who want to. They're paying for that service, or they're providing something in exchange for that service. And in this model right here, we're taking taxpayer money, resources, government resources that belong to the people, and we're effectively distributing that, to these individuals. And it takes a little bit of personal responsibility away, a little bit of ownership away from I think, what's needed in order to help these individuals get to a better spot. I won't disagree that there are some things that have happened in the past. We debated at a pretty good length the legislative declaration here, and I won't dispute that there are some things that have happened in the past that have probably marginalized individuals. But at the end of the day, there are good organizations not only trying to make a living, make a profit, for-profit businesses, but there are also nonprofit organizations, educational organizations that help try to resolve this in the free market. And that is the proper way to go about doing this. So, members, I'll just say that while I think it's well-intentioned, I think the General Assembly here should not be in the business of helping individuals get better credit scores when there are other charitable or for-profit organizations that are doing this pretty well. So please, I ask for a no vote on the committee report and also the bill.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I heard this bill in the Business Committee. I definitely wasn't in support at that time. The reason I wasn't in support, I have certain principles, and this is an anti-free market bill. This actually expands government. What I want is to evaluate the $200,000 that is used for this bill. And why are we using $200,000 and of our taxpayers' money on something like this? It took me 60 seconds to log in and find a way to report a payment to a landlord to your credit bureau. Those services are all over the internet at a very modest fee. I think it was around $10. But the stickler is you have to take the initiative and get online, and then you have to pay for it yourself. So this service is all over the internet. So I ask, why are we spending $200,000 of our taxpayers' money on this? And why are we spending our time on it? When a consumer can easily take the initiative and do this themselves. So we can all agree that it's wise, or maybe we don't agree that it's wise to report your rent payments to the credit bureau. But that service is already available. And I think the consumer should pay for it themselves. And I don't think my constituents should be associated with that. Because we need to really look at $200,000 to me is still a lot of money that my constituents work for. And now we're implementing a program that they could find online within seconds. And for what? So all I ask is when you consider this bill, consider the people working for the tax money. And we need to really, I know there's a reason that every Republican voted no in committee on this. Because we need to respect our taxpayers' money and let the free market take over. If people want to do this, they can do it. But there's no reason we need to be using our taxpayers' money on this when they work so hard for it. So with that said, I ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This particular bill truly is an effort for those lower income or economically suppressed or depressed individuals who have not fully integrated into the economic model that we have in this country and in this state, to try to, I believe, allow them to get into that economic space. I understand the intent. I too question the need for the funding, but I will tell you, I think the reason this effort is in place is to prime that pump. If you've ever tried to get a pump going, if you don't put the water in it and create that vacuum and prime that pump, it will spin and spin and you will not move water. For you irrigated farmers out there, you understand what I'm talking about. So I do understand that element, but here is what I would share with all of us here that is important. If we are to move forward with this, and I see no reason why tenants cannot build credit through good faith rental payments to establish credit worthiness. But here's what I feel, working as a free market economist and also putting that burden on the sector of industry that will most benefit in future time. I really think that if those credit scores and the credit worthiness that is built from a program like this comes to fruition, which I have the feeling that it probably will over time, that the credit institutions then who will benefit from the interest that is accrued from the consumers that use their newfound credit, in our economy, that they will pay the cost and the burden because they will benefit. truly we need to, it is my humble opinion that we need to try to get government out of those free market spaces. If we prime the pump today, it is my intent to work with the bill sponsors to make sure that in future years, if the program expands, that the government doesn't share the cost and the burden of continuing this program. I think there is merit to bringing these people into this economic cycle that we have, to helping them build credit and credit worthiness, but in turn, passing that cost away from state government and onto the economic entities that benefit from credit and offering credit to our citizens, be them any socioeconomic stratus. So I will be in support of this bill, and I encourage others to consider that. But I will tell you, in future years, we must work diligently to get government out of all the economic spaces that we continue to insert ourselves into.
Any further discussion? Representative Bradfield. Representative Bradfield.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the committee report, please.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor say yes. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this bill is a bill that allows people who are renting, tenants who are renting, to report their rental history on their credit. As a renter, that will be your biggest bill, your biggest expense on a monthly basis. So it allows you to build credit without adding additional debt to your expenses. So it makes sense for people who are credit invisible, those who are low-income people, those who are in rural America who don't have credit. And one of the biggest impediments to owning a home is, first, debt-to-income ratio, too much credit and not enough income, or not having any credit. So this bill allows people to voluntarily opt into this program through their landlords for a one-year pilot program. We will collect the data through CHAFA, and at the end, we'll evaluate it to see how well this program worked. Representative Holtorf was talking about taking this statewide. We would love to do that, but instead of doing that initially, we wanted to look at it to see how effective this is, collect data, and then analyze the data before we go on a statewide program. And there's many ways to pay for it when we go statewide, if we do go statewide. The tenants themselves can pay for it, or maybe a bank. But at this juncture, all we're doing is, getting people ready to get homes through a lower, a better credit score, and that's what we hope to see at the end of this bill. Go ahead.
Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One other component of this bill is that each tenant that enrolls in this program will also be asked to take a financial budgeting class, and so that they can make a brighter future for themselves. And in response to the Representative Holtorf that was here and Representative Sandridge, I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your opposition and support of this bill. I think we kind of have to keep in mind what the existence is for the people that are going to utilize this project. I really suspect that a great many of these renters do not have a computer, do not log in, and do not have $10 to put their credit score in a credit bureau report. I think, though, that if they were part of this program where the landlord did that on a regular monthly basis, this is a way to help their score. I am one of these people that do not believe in a handout. I believe in a hand up. And this is a program where if you are involved, you need to do what you have been asked to do, which is to pay your monthly rent. You take the financial class and get yourself into fiscal independence. And so therefore, I am not giving you anything, but I am offering you a way to raise your own level of financial independence. So yes, I urge a yes vote on House Bill 21-1134. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Representative, any further discussion?
Yes. So I just wanted to say, so this bill is going to level the playing field, enable communities of color, low-income communities, and residents in rural communities to build their credit and also get financial literate. We ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1134. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1134, as amended, passes. Madam Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the committee rise and report.
You heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Gregorio, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report is under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1105 as amended, House Bill 1134 as amended, House Bill 1292 as amended, House Bill 1300 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 35 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Representative Doherty. You have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The question before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 0 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar till tomorrow, Wednesday, May 19th.
See no objection. The balance of the calendar will be laid over one day till Wednesday, May 19th. That brings us to announcements and introductions. Representative Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm here to announce that the first conference committee on House Bill 21-1016, the Veteran Treatment Court Bill, is going to be tomorrow, Wednesday, 19 May at 8:30 a.m. in HCR 107.
Thank you, Representative Ortiz. Representative Exum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Attention, House Transportation Local Government. We will not be meeting upon adjournment today. We're laying over House Bill 1308 until tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you, Representative Exum. See no further announcements or introductions. Let's do reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, and Water. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 204 be amended as follows and be so amended for the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 189 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1189 be amended as follows and be so amended for the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1254 be amended as follows and be so amended for the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1281 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1282 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1311 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1312 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 38 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 128 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Finance, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends following. Senate Bill 1160, House Bill 1163 be postponed indefinitely. House Bill 1286 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1288 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 69 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Committee on State, Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends following. Senate Bill 129 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 250 be amended as follows and be so amended be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation.
Message from the Senate. Message from the
Mr.
Senate will
Speaker.
be buried in the journal. Message from the Governor.
Honorable
Message from
members.
the Governor will be printed in the journal. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until later today.
The House will stand in recess. See no objection. The House will stand in recess till later today.